EWTN Radio, along with Jeff and Matt and Ace, our show team. I am Jerry Usher with Debbie Georgiani. Hey, Debbie, welcome to another broadcast.
Hello, Jerry. And yes, it's been a wonderful week. We've had a lot of participation, and we hope that our listeners actually step up and make a phone call today about it. This is kind of a difficult subject, and I know, Jerry, it touched your family. So you're going to share again probably about what happened with your mom. And it all revolves around hard medical decisions that we sometimes are forced to make. You know, we really don't look forward to these things, but, you know, family members or friends depend on us, or even for ourselves, we have to make a hard medical decision. Right, Jerry?
Mm-hmm. That's right. I think it's something that is going to very likely touch upon just about everybody's life at some point. And so I'll give you the phone number, then we'll talk a little bit more and kind of set the topic up a little bit more for you here on the program. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. Talking about today, have you ever had to make a hard medical decision? I gave the example, I think, at the end of yesterday's show. I'll repeat it now, just kind of as an example that maybe can get you started here and get the calls coming in. My mother, who died at the age of 90, very, very long life, very happy life. She was a couple times on a ventilator, I think, and the first time, the doctors told us, you know, her 5 kids were scattered all around the country. And they said, well, you know what, she's on a ventilator. She didn't want to be kept on one. So what do you think? And we all got together, put our heads together, prayed a little bit, and said, okay, if that was her wish, we wanted to remove that from her. So that was a very, very hard medical decision that we had to make. And she actually rebounded from that and then died a year or two after that. So what about you, Take Two family? Have you maybe had to make a personal hard medical decision, choosing a surgery versus not taking it, or a decision having to do with somebody else in your life? 833-288-3986.
Wait a minute. You missed a key part to that story. You have to share with our listeners what your mom said, because I remember we were in studio at a pledge drive when that happened.
Yeah, well, they took the ventilator out of her, and she actually, like I said, she made it through it. And according to my sister, this is what my sister said. She said, my mom sat up and said, don't you ever do that to me again. Mm-hmm. Sounds just like my mom, you know.
That's Dorothy.
She didn't die at that moment, but she was alive for a couple more years. But yeah, I think we're going to get some poignant stories today.
She was a feisty woman.
She was, yeah. She was very feisty is a good word for her, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so we're talking today of have you ever had to make a hard medical decision? And we know this could be a very difficult subject for many because it goes, you know, a lot of maybe regret or guilt or things like that are associated with some decisions that have gone, you know, awry or have gone, you know, let's just say it. The next step was death, right? Let's just say it, put it right out there. And this happened in our family, and it's really unfortunate. And then you have to kind of pick up all the pieces because there's a lot of emotions that happen. A lot of people weigh in after the fact and say, you should have done this, you should have done that. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you check this thing out? And then there's a lot to this subject. So think about it for just a moment. And if you could share some of your experience, we really know it could bring comfort and help to others. So here is the number. Please dial in. We're a very welcoming platform for you to share your lived experience. 833-288-3986.
And as always, there are ears and hearts tuned in that you may have an impact on, because something you have had to do or a decision you've had to make could be something somebody else is facing right now. Maybe it was you yourself. You know, many times people are diagnosed with certain diseases or health ailments, and sometimes they're inoperable. Sometimes there's a question about whether they can. Sometimes it's a question of whether, you know, treatment, like say a cancer diagnosis, maybe it's a late stage, and you know, do you even try to go through the therapies and the treatments or anything, or do you just say, you know what, my decision is to just let this ride out, and the Lord. Perhaps it was you making a or had to make one for. We know that this is touching upon your lives, so those phone lines at 833-288-3986. Again, that's 833-288-EWTN.
Okay, so sometimes when medical decisions happen, there's one person in charge of the medical directives, right? There's one person that is in charge of another person. And so they have to make the decision, and it's a really hard thing to do. And then there are other times where families get together and they pray about it, and they really make a decision together about a certain loved one. And that really seems to work out well when everybody kind of joins together, right? And is unified in the direction and with that person's interests in mind, right? And so there's all these things you have to take into account. Also, maybe you're part of clergy, a deacon or a chaplain or a priest or a religious sister, and you're stationed at a hospital. And, could you share some of the things that people have to deal with when they're about to make a hard medical decision? I've made a few medical decisions in my own personal health journey. And I have to tell you, I just know this. I've had a lot of, I had confirmation, let's just put it that way, that I had support from heaven. I just felt it. I felt it with my guardian angel, and I felt it with certain saints that I'm very close to, that I am friends with, that I think I'm friends with. I hope they think, I hope they think I'm a friend. But yeah. And has that ever happened where you really felt like heaven's support when you're making a hard medical decision? Please weigh in on this. We need your help. You don't have to be Catholic to call in. We consider you part of the family, and we really want you to call in. 833-288-3986.
And many people have advanced directives too, so they lay out their wishes. So maybe that made it a little bit easier for you at some point if you had to make a hard medical decision for somebody who maybe was not conscious or alert or something like that. So this is our topic today, and really we want to share, as we always do, because like I said earlier, there are a lot of people who will benefit from your lived experience in this. And we want to know maybe how this impacted you. How did you grow in your faith? Did you feel guilty? Hopefully not. But hopefully you did the right thing and you feel that you did that. Maybe hopefully you have peace in your heart. 833-288-EWTN. Couple phone lines still open there. Get on board here. 833-288-3986. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Have you ever had to make a hard medical decision?
Join Archbishop Jose Gomez in sharing the good news.
Mothers are the heart of every home. So on this Mother's Day, we pray for all mothers who are with us or who have gone before us to heaven. We also especially pray for all women who are expecting to be mothers. Let us offer this special blessing for all mothers. Loving God, as a mother gives life and nourishment to her children, so you watch over your church. Bless these women, that they may be strengthened as Christian mothers. May the example of their faith and love shine forth. Grant that we, their sons and daughters, may honor them always with the spirit of profound respect. Grant this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Visit lacatholics.org to find ways to connect with our faith community in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles.
The most original Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
This is Doug Keck. On this week's Mother Angelica Answering the Call, Mother encourages us to stop trying to change people. Her other topics include praying to get through tough times, how to know God is calling you, and on meeting Mother Teresa.
Mother Angelica Answering the Call, Sunday afternoon, 2 Eastern, on EWTN Radio.
Talking about making hard medical decisions today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. You'll see how this weaves into our spiritual life. So please call in at 833-288-3986. We do have room for you, so we'd love to hear from you. I wanted to share, Jerry, before we get to the phones, about this really great book that I'm recommending all over the place. It's actually been highlighted in a lot of spring pledge drives this season, and I'm so excited for Dr. Ray Guarendi because I think he's written 17 books. I think this is, you know what? Don't tell him this, okay? Do not tell him this. But I think I have every one of his books. I think I do. But I don't want to tell him that. Okay, so Simple Steps to a Stronger Marriage by Dr. Ray Guarendi. Dr. Ray explains that the secret of a good marriage is applying a handful of common sense, time-tested ideas practiced by others who have done it well. With Dr. Ray's advice, you will learn tips on how husbands can support their wives in parenting and how living by the just don't say it philosophy is a game changer. Yeah, that's for sure. Simple Steps to a Stronger Marriage by Dr. Ray Guarendi, a new book from EWTN Publishing, available at EWTNRC.com. Buy Catholic, shop EWTNRC.com.
Okay. I can't say I have all of his books. I have quite a few, but, he is a prolific writer, as you've pointed out there.
Yeah. But and it's common sense, it is so perfect, with his very extensive background in counseling, it's so right up up our alley what we do in Stand Tall, our ministry, our life coaching ministry. It's common sense, practical, like he said, time tested ideas that work. I mean, and really, it's the simple things. And I love how he titled it, Simple Steps to a Stronger Marriage. It's the simple things that make things work. I mean, we overlook them sometimes, right? And we talk about it all the time at Stand Tall. And by the way, folks, you can always get a free consultation at our ministry that is really going strong. We're so proud of all of our experienced coaches that are helping people to live just an amazing, abundant life. You go to standtalltoday.com. The ministry is called Stand Tall, but our website is standtalltoday.com, because you got to stand tall today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, today. Well, you do have to yesterday. That would work too.
Well, and the TALL is an acronym. Take another look at life. We're all kind of, many of us anyway, dragging around a ball and chain, or weighed down by, the past, or worries, concerns, things like that, not really living out our passion and our purpose in life. And all of our coaches just really work with you to try and encourage you to take another look at life and really turn some things around and thrive instead of just survive. So again, that's standtalltoday.com. Here on the program, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and you, it is your show, talking about making medical decisions today. Perhaps you've been faced with that, and we'd love to know how you came to a decision, based on, ethics and morality. Maybe those came into play, whether to be treated or not for a certain disease, whether to take somebody off of life support, following maybe their wishes. 833-288-3986. Let us know what you think about this as we go to Seneca Falls, New York, and talk to Ruth first up on the program today. Hi, Ruth. Listening on the Station of the Cross. Welcome.
Thank you. I have two things to share. One of them is I'm now 78. I have no children, so I have no grandchildren. I have no living immediate family. I had one sibling who's now deceased also. And now at 78, I'm facing all these medical decisions alone, and it's really hard. And can you hear me?
Yes, just fine. Oh, we just lost Ruth.
Do you know what? I think she might have had her radio on in the background, so maybe she switched and then she just got disconnected. So Ruth, if you could call back. But let me address that for everyone that is kind of facing this alone, if that's okay. And please call in. We do have some open phone lines on this. These are hard medical decisions we have to make, or, others have to make for us, right? If it comes to that point, and all sorts of, there's so much to this about caregiving, and there's so much more we can talk about, like Michelle Johnson's book on caregiving that we've recommended many times here on the program. I think it is very important that we talk about this before the situation happens, because here's the problem. And I've said this to Michelle Johnson many times. And actually, Jerry, if you could, I want her exact name of her book again, just to make sure I have it correct. Michelle Johnson. It's Walking the Way of the Cross, or just to make sure.
Yeah.
What do you have it there? Okay.
I'm gonna get it here.
Okay. But I just wanted to say, I've said this to Michelle Johnson, the author of this book. It's her life story with her husband, about her husband, Stu. And I just want to say that I've said this to Michelle many times. You've got to prepare ahead of time, because once you're thrown into the caregiving role, it is overwhelming. It's unbelievably overwhelming. I know, because I've done it. I did it for over 11 years. And so I always recommend her book whenever I can. The exact title, do you have it?
I do, yes. It is, I think you were right on there. It's Walking the Way of the Cross for Caregivers, subtitled How to Cope Practically, Emotionally, and Spiritually When Your Loved One is Seriously Ill.
By Michelle Johnson. She's the director of communications at EWTN. She did a fabulous job on this real life story. Okay, Ruth is back with us, so let's go to Ruth again. Ruth, we could hear you when we got the beginning part of your story, but please continue.
Okay, I'm now 78 without children and grandchildren, and I'm facing several very serious medical decisions alone. And I just wonder if there's other people out there like me, because I don't have a caretaker to call you and talk, and I'm my own caretaker. And it's very difficult at 78, and I wanted to know if other people might be experiencing the same problem. And one of them is open heart surgery, and because of other medical conditions, they can't do it the new way. They have to break my sternum and go in that way, and it's a long recovery, and I'm a diabetic, and I have other medical problems that I don't need to discuss, but it's extremely difficult for me because there isn't anybody to really talk to. And I found that when my friends wanted me to talk about end-of-life decisions and things, I wasn't ready. But now at 78, with these medical concerns in front of me, I have to be ready, and it's very difficult. And the other thing I wanted to share is when my father passed away many years ago, I was named as the person to make his end-of-life decisions. And because my brother was alive at the time, he had a lot of connections with the doctors and different people in the community that I didn't have. But my father wanted me to do that, and when the time came to make those decisions, I was ignored. And it still hurts because I wanted my father to be in hospice care, and I had legal papers. That's what's upsetting me the most, and it was, it still hurts.
Yeah. Well, Ruth, we'll address that situation in just a second. Regarding your situation, you mentioned you don't have kids, you don't have grandkids. Do you have a friend? Is there anybody, a pastor, maybe a priest, perhaps a healthcare provider? I don't know if you have a primary doctor or somebody that you could actually just sort of discuss some of this with, and maybe through those channels you could find somebody who would be able to, assist you. We all really need somebody at a certain time in our lives to walk hand in hand with us, and well, we just lost Ruth again. So I was going to ask her a question if she had, any kind of, help available at all, because it's sad, if somebody, to have to go through this kind of stuff alone. I'm sure a lot of people probably do that.
Yeah, it's a shame that we lost her again. Hopefully we can get her back real quickly. But if not, let me just share a couple things on that. I agree, Jerry. You need to get a support system around you, whether it be, a medical person or somebody at the parish or a friend or a neighbor. A neighbor can be great because neighbors have to live next to you, right? So they will step in at times. I have a great neighbor that used to always watch our house and watch our when we had Gracie, our dog. I mean, so neighbors will step in, believe it or not. And it's a beautiful thing. I just want to say this. We have to prepare ahead of time. We're all going to die. That's the one thing we know. Okay. Unless somebody has figured out how they're going to live forever. I know they're trying to do that, but I don't think that's possible. And I don't think that's even necessary or we want to do that. So we're all going to die someday, and we should prepare and have some things in place that we're not going to have hurt feelings and situations that come up in family members. I think that's very important, Jerry. I learned that the hard way. I have planned out my whole entire funeral and everything. Everything's done, even the crypt. Same with Marty. We've done the same thing. So there's not going to be any problem. So, Jerry, if you get a phone call, everything's going to be written out.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, I'm not. And diocesan websites have, medical directives and end of life, wishes and all sorts of things that you can download that paperwork and you can have it in a file. And I think it's just very it's the responsible thing to do. What do you say to that, Jerry?
Oh, I agree. And everything you just mentioned, I have not done yet. So you're kind of lighting a fire under me here, Debbie, because as we always say, we're not getting older. As the deacon at my parish says, I'm the oldest I've ever been right now, and I'm not going to get any younger. So yeah, that's a good little prompting for me. I'm going to keep that in mind and look into some of this stuff.
Yeah, and it's not morbid. It really isn't. It's actually a relief. When I have the file on all of my, burial and all my wishes and medical wishes and all that kind of stuff in a file, it was such a relief. I was like, whew, I did it. It's done. It's good. And now just live life until God calls me home. I mean, that's just.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it's not morbid, of course, because, like you said, it is something we're all going to face. And it's interesting we're talking about that right now because during this Lent that we just completed, one of the spiritual reading books that I was reading is called the Ars Moriendi. That's Latin. It means the art of dying. And it talks about how we need to we can actually be prepared for death. We can understand the spiritual attacks that we're going to see toward the end of our lives, and it talks about the 5 tactics of the devil that he tries to throw at us when we're nearing death. But it also just talks about how truly beautiful death can be, since it is inevitable. Why don't we try to do it the best we can? And says that's why it's called the Art of Dying. A very interesting title to the book, but that's what it is.
Say that again one more time, the title?
It's, in Latin, it's Ars, A-R-S, Ars Moriendi, the art of dying.
The art of dying. Wow. You find the most interesting books, I have to tell you.
Well, I got that when I was watching one of the videos on formed.org from the Augustine Institute, which we have at our parish. And Dr. Tim Gray did a talk on that for Lent, and it was really quite fascinating. So I got a copy of the book right away.
Absolutely. Well, I know that Ruth was trying to call back in. Ruth, if you just can listen to the program, we gave some suggestions. But here's the beautiful news, Ruth. If you're listening, we have the whole Take Two family that is praying for you, that people come into your life that can really help you prepare, and that you can have peace in your heart. Oh, and Jerry, you were going to address about her brother, I believe, and what happened with her dad. The thing about it is, there's nothing we can do to rewind it, and so we just have to move forward. And I know that hurt feelings happen between siblings, Jerry, and that's a tough thing. But we just have to be at peace that God sees everything,
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and you tell Ruth, it still bothers her. She said she's still hurt by it, and unfortunately, these things happen probably more often than we would like to see them happen, Debbie. Where just families, you can't agree on things. One person may be put in charge of, say, a parent or a loved one, and the other people feel kind of left out. And then, of course, there are other issues in terms of when somebody dies, you can get into things like inheritance and who's going to have what. And it's a shame, really, to see families sort of sibling relationships kind of fall apart over these types of things.
Right. Right. But we have Ruth in our prayer book. So, Ruth, we are praying that things work out for you and you're at peace and you live life. That's what it's all about. So let's hear, we're getting to be almost full phone line, so you can jump in on one of the open lines right now, please. And let's talk about hard medical decisions. 833-288-3986. We'll get started with Marie in San Antonio, Texas on Guadalupe Radio Network. Hello, Marie. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, Marie.
I'm so glad you accepted my call.
Sure.
I just wanted to start by saying a lot of these difficult medical decisions for Catholics are in church teaching. In other words, if you know church teaching, then you'll have assistance in making these decisions. Some of these decisions are clearly not according to church teaching. For instance, the person is required to have hydration and food or nutrition, however they get it, and unless there's they can't assimilate the fluid or the food or the nutrition. That would be the one time when it wouldn't have to be given. My father broke his hip, and he was elderly, but he didn't have any terminal illnesses or anything, and I didn't have medical power of attorney, so I wasn't a decision maker. However, it was noted that every time he moved, and this seems to be the case with older people, elderly people, when they're moved, they get confused, and he had moved from home to hospital and then to end-of-life hospice.
Hold that thought, Marie, just for a second. This is going to be an important conversation we're going to have with Marie in San Antonio. Debbie mentioned we could get started with you, Marie. We've got a break that we can't move right here, but we'll let you rewind a little bit and continue what you were saying there in a moment. Hope is on the line. Matt Kubensky screening other calls. Hard medical decisions, 833-288-3986. Join us.
The most original and exclusive Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
I'm a Dominican, and St. Dominic was an itinerant preacher who went around and touched people's lives by open-air preaching. The radio opens the possibilities of doing this to the entire world in a very intimate sense.
EWTN Open Line Thursday with Father Brian Mulady. This afternoon, 3 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Want to be notified when Take Two with Jerry and Debbie goes live on Facebook? Follow EWTN Radio's Facebook page and click the bell icon to be notified.
Psalm 1, verse 1 says, "Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scorners." What does that mean? Don't hang around with bad people? No. According to G.K. Chesterton, it means something much better than that. He says that there are certain people who, because they are really pure, create a good atmosphere around themselves. They are truly children of light, and that light shines on everything they touch. So it's not that hanging around bad people makes us bad. It's that being righteous can help make the people around us righteous too.
Spend more time with the Apostle of Common Sense. Visit chesterton.org for more information and go to EWTNRC.com to discover more books and programs written and inspired by G.K. Chesterton.
Hi, this is Janet Williams. We embrace the essence of feminine spirituality on Women of Grace tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
We're speaking with Marie in San Antonio, Texas on Guadalupe Radio Network. And Marie, sorry about that little hitting the pause button, but if you can rewind about 10 seconds and just pick up where you left off, we really want to hear the end of your story.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Anyway, I'm not precisely sure where I was, but he moved from home to hospital and then from hospital directly to a hospice facility. And as I say, because I have a medical background, I know that when they're moved like that, they get anxious, they stop eating and drinking. So anyway, I showed up at the hospice facility and in the morning and in the evening, and enticed him to eat and drink, just by spending time with him and like tasting his food and telling him how delicious it was. So about the second or third day, a nurse ran in there and said, if he's going to eat and drink, he can't stay here. So then the person in my family who did have medical power of attorney found a caretaker in a home situation, and he was moved there. Same thing, stopped eating and drinking. I insisted with the hospice that he required IV hydration at least for a while, and then once he got used to it, then he was doing better, and the the home caretaker, it was in her home. She said, I don't want to give these morphine drops to him. There was no medical reason for him to receive morphine drops. And I said, then don't give them. And so she followed my advice and didn't give them. And he went on to adjust and enjoy his new surroundings and lasted another year and a half, during which time we had much time we spent together. So He died naturally in his sleep from, I guess, an aneurysm that we knew he had in his aorta, and he had time to receive sacraments and time to visit with me and talk about family members and pleasant things. So I guess my point is, be sure you know church teaching. Be aware that many hospice situations are geared to ending the person's life, not just making them comfortable, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my story.
Well, and thank you, Marie, for bringing that up, because it is very important. We have to be aware, either be aware of, church teachings on things like this, because here's the thing, the Bible teaches us a lot about things we believe and do as Catholic Christians, and the directives we should follow. But there's a lot of things it doesn't talk about, and so we get those things from organizations like the National Catholic Bioethics Center, which, by the way, I want to promote their website. It's ncbcenter.org. ncbcenter.org. They're actually outstanding. And then, of course, we can turn to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, because Debbie, when we get into a situation like end of life and we're caring for someone or having to make decisions, it's often the two things are pitted against each other. Ethics and morality and church teaching versus love of the person and sympathy and supposed compassion and things like that. So we really have to balance all those things. But definitely, as Maria is saying, I think we need to lead with what the church teaches on these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And Marie, a couple things as you were speaking about your father's experience. Can you give us your father's first name? I brought the prayer book out for all the moms that are calling in this week, but also for the dads. I mean, we've got Father's Day right around the corner. Can you give us your father's first name?
It's Sam.
Sam, okay. Do you want to put your mom next to Sam?
Well, no, not at this time.
Okay. No worries. I always just ask just because a lot of them like to have moms and dads. It's perfectly fine. But let me just address a couple things. As you were speaking about your story, some of our support team, Patricia and Mary Beth, weighed in and said that apparently Dr. Ray had a recent show on this, Dr. Ray Guarendi. And the website that was mentioned and was recommended is patientsrightscouncil.org. Patientsrightscouncil.org. It's out of Steubenville, and it has a lot of information, so you can do that research and see what is appropriate for us as Catholic Christians, and to gain that knowledge. And Marie, I just want to say, with your father's experience, thank you so much for. It sounds like you really tapped into your instinct as well, which is really good, because I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed with the emotional side of it that we forget about that our instincts are really, functioning well, and we should really, take note of that and do the practical things that we know that have worked in the past. So I just want to say thank you for tapping into that. And then also, it's a tough situation any which way you look at it, but I'm glad that your dad went on to continue to live his life past the situation of, I think you said it was a broken hip. But I gotta share something about this. I fell recently. Okay. And I have a newfound respect and understanding for the seniors that fall, because I will tell you something. I'm 57 years old. I fell recently from vertigo, and I hurt my knee and I hurt my foot, but I didn't think anything else happened. And a week later, I could hardly walk, and I was shocked. I said, "What happened?" I even said to my husband, "What did I do? What happened to my back?" And he goes, "It was probably from the fall." And so I have such a respect and understanding and sympathy for people that go through a fall and break or fracture something, because it is not that easy. It isn't just put ice on it and it's going to heal. It could really affect you, and it could actually cause a premature death. Any final comments, Marie?
No, but that coincides with my experience and what I've noted with friends and so on that are elderly.
Yeah. Thank Thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Marie in San Antonio. Appreciate that. That will open up a phone line if you would like to weigh in on this conversation. 833-288-3986, talking about have you ever had to make a difficult medical decision. 833-288-3986. We will go to Hope in just a moment. I wanted to read what Pam, who's watching on YouTube, had to say. All of you watching on YouTube and Facebook, welcome to you. Pam says, I had to accept a hard decision my husband made to no longer seek treatment for cancer because he was given wrong information on a deadline for a trial drug. I wanted to insist the trial accept him. I miss him every day and wish he was here to help me cope with the craziness in the world. And that is from Pam, who's watching the video stream on YouTube.
That's tough. That's tough. You know, that is very tough because when people are going through cancer, sometimes you feel like your rights are being taken away, like everybody's telling you what to do, and really ultimately the person who is dealing with cancer has, you know, the ultimate say of yes or no on certain things, and with that comes the what happens afterwards, right? And it could be something that turns out really well, or it could be something, you know, that turns out not so good and could put you in an early death situation. But I go back to what Adam Bly has always said: we just have to be prepared and ready to die in a good state, right? In a good state in a healthy state of grace, and be always ready and not be afraid and just move forward because we're pilgrims on a journey, and to just be at peace with that. He says that the Western culture has a lot more difficult time accepting death and illness than other cultures do.
You mentioned the word peace, and I was just going to say that's what came to my mind and my heart as well. So. Martin, hang on in Houston. You are right after Hope, who is in Amarillo, Texas, listening, of course, on St. Valentine Radio. Hi, Hope.
Hello.
Hello.
I have it's sort of it's a concerning question. My family has been quite dysfunctional. I made up my mind several years ago that I was going to just, deal with my mom and honor her the best I could. And, I live, 300 miles away from her, and it's just been real difficult. She's been very ill for over the last year. And supposedly my niece and my daughter are her executors and has medical power of attorney, et cetera, to take care of her. And I just, knowing my mom and the way that she's always controlled everything, how can I delicately go without being blindsided when her time comes to leave this earth? How can I make sure that all those plans are in place that she says they are, but apparently when she got ill last year, they weren't in place? So how can I do that without someone thinking that I'm trying to, be the headmaster and take care of it, take over everything? I want to do my mom's wishes. I want to, even though she's been the way she's been, I want to take the high road and like you just got through saying the word peace, that's what I want, is a peaceful ending to celebrate her life.
Well, Hope, thank you for calling. Thanks for listening to the show. I think I heard you say that there is somebody else who is assigned to be kind of the primary decision maker in your mom's life. Did you say, am I right about that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you have any kind of a relationship with this individual, a sibling or a friend, or do you know each other? Are you able to kind of converse about these things in an adult responsible manner?
I have tried, but due to past situations with my younger sibling, this is their daughter. It's just impossible.
Okay.
And I take the high road and try to just not let their attitude towards me affect me. But it's become impossible. For some reason, the last couple of months, I thought it was easing up, but then my mom had a fall and it wasn't real serious. But then it seems like after that it's been real tedious, and it's just I don't know. I just want to do what's best for my mom, but I want to make sure that her wishes are, that everybody goes by what she wants done.
Hmm. Well, a couple things I could say, Hope. One, God absolutely cares enough about your mom to have her best interests in mind, and so we can be sure that God is not ignorant of the situation as it's unfolding. And the other thing, the word surrender just came to my mind. I know as much as you really, really want to make sure your mom's wishes are respected and that this goes very, very well and actually beautifully in terms of a death whenever that's going to happen. Sometimes we have to just really be trusting and surrender these situations to God. And again, I know that's not easy, but you may have to work on that. Just asking God, Lord, give me the peace. We talked about peace. Give me the peace to know that you are going to make this happen in a very, very beautiful way, in spite of the fact that I think maybe it's not, the setup isn't exactly what I would want it to be, and you'd like to be more involved in the situation. So, I don't know, Debbie, you don't have anything to say?
No, I think you shared it beautifully, and I would just again say, just really and truly commit it to the Lord and ask your guardian angels to help out big time, because I can understand that. I mean, you're in a difficult position. Hope you're in a really difficult position, but your guardian angels will step in. They really will. They'll help you through this. They don't want you to be unsettled about this or agitated in any way when that time comes. Okay, and we'll be praying for that. And Hope. That's the beautiful thing, is that we do this ahead of time. So let's start praying ahead of time, and I think that's wonderful. Okay.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Well, yeah, you've got the name Hope. That is not any coincidence, to be sure. Thank you for the phone call. 833-288-3986. How have you had to make a hard medical decision? We'll get back to the phones with Martin after I just remind you that EWTN airs the Holy Mass from Our Lady of the Angels Chapel every morning at 8 Eastern Time right here on EWTN Radio, and also every 2 hours on EWTN Radio Essentials. That's Holy Mass from Our Lady of the Angels Chapel every morning at 8 Eastern on EWTN Radio, and every 2 hours on EWTN Radio Essentials.
Okay, so we will go back to Texas, and we're going to go to Houston, Texas, Guadalupe Radio again with Martin. Hello, Martin.
Hi, Debbie and Jerry. How are y'all?
Doing pretty
well.
well.
We're doing well. We're doing
Thank
well.
you.
I'm sure you have a lot to say about this topic, huh?
Yes, ma'am. I've got, took care of my mother 30 years. And Debbie, I relate to you. I fell 4 years ago, and it's absolutely horrible. But living alone, that lady that was before, two people before these, that talked about open heart surgery and things like that, I can so relate to her because I'm trying to get Lifeline because, in the middle of the night, if something happens, all you got is yourself. And if you're on the floor, like me, I wouldn't be able to lift up, and I've got really thick doors on my home. I'm on the second floor of a building. Unless the firemen have a pass key, it'll be a while before they can get me. So I know what it's like to be, very, very fearful. But with Mama, it taught me a lot. But my brother and I both agree a best way a parent can love their children is have this taken care of before they die. Because when you go through a death of a loved one, your mind is so every which way, your emotions, and to deal with all the stuff you have to deal with. And when it's done, it takes so much off of the family.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, it almost makes me think as you're talking, Martin, that, you mentioned you and your brother were in agreement on this and you had a lot of this taken care of ahead of time. It almost makes me think, and I don't know if anybody's done this, Debbie, I don't know if you've thought about this with your mom, but have somebody like a third-party person, who's in on the discussion and the wishes of the dying person and all of that, because as Martin was pointing out, the emotions and the thoughts and everything's kind of flying around for the family members and all of that. So I don't know if some people might just maybe have a neighbor or a relative or somebody that they work with they can kind of bounce things off of when they have to go through something like this.
That's actually brilliant, and I agree with you, Jerry, and Martin. I totally can relate to your story, and I like how you very strongly as said to our listeners, please have this prepared ahead of time. I couldn't agree more. I can't say it enough. We did exactly that, Jerry. We had not just one, not just two. We had three outside people involved in my mother's directives and her wishes, and that was very helpful. With my dad, there was a couple as well, and you're right, because family emotions, all sorts of things emotions are really strong, and they can overwhelm a situation to the point where everybody feels not only frustrated but paralyzed. And that's not a good place to be when you have to make these necessary decisions, because then you're left with a lot of regrets. Martin, I have to just tell you, I loved how you called your mom Mama. I love that. God bless you.
Oh, she was I would have walked to hell and back for that lady. I adored her. But I also want to say that, Mama told, before she left her memory, Mama told my brother and I, she was 89 years old, and like that lady said, when you have heart problem, when they have to do CPR, they break ribs, they break sometimes the sternum, and it's hard on that patient. So my mom had a DNR, which is a do not resuscitate, in her medical directives. And she made that decision because she said, I'm 89 and I don't want to go through all that, So that was her decision. But they can put in the but you're right. Have, either go, connected with like here in Houston, we got CHI at St. Luke's. I think they're one of the largest Catholic hospitals. I think they're run by the Dominicans. But you can call a Catholic hospital and talk to a social worker. You get all the laws and make sure they'll help you with church teaching and everything, just to make sure that it's done the way our Lord would want it done.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we don't make a long trip in this life, say we're going on vacation, we're going to drive across the country or something. We don't do that, especially nowadays with technology, without planning out pretty much every turn we're going to make and every stop we're going to take and all of that. And what's more important than the journey, the final journey of life into eternity? So, Martin, you made a great contribution to the conversation today. Appreciate that very, very much. Have a beautiful day there in Texas.
And did you share with our listeners about Mass?
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you did? Okay, where was I? I was probably thinking about Martin saying I love how he addressed his mama. It's making me think of Mother's Day. Okay, let me just say it right up front. We're only a couple days away. I'm missing my mom. Will be the second Mother's Day without my mom. I miss her terribly. So, Connie, if you're listening, happy Mother's Day. Yeah.
Okay.
How about you?
Yeah, let's go to Liz in Colorado next, listening on Catholic Radio Network. Hi, Liz.
Hi there. How are you?
Doing okay. How about
you? I'm good. I thank you for taking my call. I have a situation.
Liz, if I can are you in a speakerphone, Liz? We're having a little trouble hearing you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was on my sync. Let me go to my phone.
Yeah, that would. We want to hear what you have to say.
Does that help?
Go ahead.
Does that help?
That's a little bit better. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, if you can turn your radio down too, I think you have your radio
sorry,
up
I need to
behind
turn
you
off
there.
my radio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So, back in 2018, I have the only one left in my family was my brother, who was a year and a half older than I was, and or that I am, and he came down with Creutzfeldt Jakob. I don't know if you've ever heard of that disease.
Never heard of it. Have you, Jerry?
I have not, huh?
No. Mm-mm.
No, it's basically the human form of mad cow.
Oh.
And it causes, they say it's very rare, but I'm thinking it's not as rare as people think, because 2 weeks after he died, I knew somebody else that died from it. But anyway, this disease, he started getting dementia symptoms, and within 3 weeks, they had done the MRI. His brain was a mess. Put him in the hospital. They got it they said, He can't go home. He's, was by himself. Very loner person because we were all adopted, and his mom dumped him in an alley when he was 2. And then, so he went into a shell, and his teacher tried to pull him out of it in 2nd grade, and she died halfway through it, and his first wife left him, and he's just went into a shell. So he wouldn't come over to family functions. He wouldn't do a lot of things except call me if he needed something. And so when the hospital called me, I went. I told him I'd rather have him come live with me than go into a nursing home. He agreed. And he was already going blind. It's a very, very rapid dementia. He was fine 3 weeks before. And before long, I brought him home on the 16th of October, and on November 1st, they got the test back confirming that that's what he had. And he went downhill really quick. He went blind. He couldn't remember anything. He couldn't remember how to do any function. He couldn't, and it was just myself and my husband took care of him, and they put him in hospice right away. And anyway, to make a long story short, I had asked him previously, I said, Wayne, do you believe in God? We were all baptized Lutheran when my older brother went to Vietnam. And so we got baptized.
Liz, we're gonna run out of time, so I just want to make sure I have time to comment. So I'm so sorry to do this, but you're going to hear the music. Go ahead.
Okay. So my priest told me I needed to make sure he had it straight with God before he died, and I did the best I could. I said my rosary next to him. I said my Chaplet of Divine Mercy next to him. I played Christian music next to him. But I think I fell a week before, the day after Thanksgiving, and he stopped eating at that point. And I think he overheard a conversation between hospice and me.
Right.
That with my broken arm,
right.
I didn't know if we could take care of him.
Liz, I'm going to have to jump in. I'm so sorry. I just want to say something because I read the comments that Matt Gabinski sent over when you called in. So here's what I would say. Be at peace. Be at peace. You said, I did my best. Be at peace. Let God do the rest. Okay? God knows your intention. God knows what you wanted for your brother. Be at peace, okay? And trust in God. Trust in God, Liz. I can't say it enough. Jerry?
And especially those prayers, Liz. You mentioned the rosary and, of course, the Divine Mercy Chaplet at his bedside. Those are powerful. You can have great confidence and continue to pray for him, but you can have great confidence that the Lord showed his mercy to him. So, Faith in Florida, we are not going to get to you today. We apologize for that. Debbie said you hear that music. But tomorrow, we're going to head into Mother's Day weekend and ask you, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of your mom?
Oh, my goodness. I'm getting emotional now. I'm going to be a mess tomorrow. Okay, you've got to join us tomorrow as we honor mothers here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Until tomorrow, we want to wish our beautiful Take Two family, have a great day. St. Joseph, please pray for us.
Hey, this is Michael O'Neill, the Miracle Hunter. I'll be delving into the fascinating world of miracles and taking you on a hunt that explores the greatest mysteries and marvels